Hello, my name is Richard Lynch. I'm a Warren County resident currently residing in Waynesville, or just south of there. Folks, the school levy in the Springboro area has been a blessing, for lack of better words, due to the fact that folks have, one, some money in their pocket, two, they can actually spend their money, and three, I'm a local business person who's actually benefiting by the fact that they have some money in our community now.
My name is David Petroni, and I'm Vice President of the Springboro Community City Schools, and I'm also the Chairman of the Budget and Finance Asked about Springboro. I thought I'd tell you about our board's philosophy. Our philosophy is really founded on four things. First off, we focused on curriculum for our children, fiscal responsibility for our taxpayers. We're asking the board and the district to follow policy, and we're holding people accountable. And in doing that, though, last May we had a levy, or actually we had a 5-year forecast that showed a $13.6 million surplus. And yes, within that, we too have a renewal levy next year that we have to pass for $9.2 million. So we have a lot of work to do, but we're starting to see the results. And those results included over $900,000 of investment that we're giving back to our kids to help our teachers teach them. The $900,000 includes $350,000 in textbooks, $120,000 in computers, all focused on putting children first. And so yes, I tell you, Ms. Crow, the face of education in Springboro has changed. It's getting better.
Okay, my name is Dean Klingerman. I live in Springboro. I've been a resident here for 34 years. I'm a retired program manager. Springboro is a great place to live in. It has been in the past, and it's continuing to be, and I think recently it's even improved. And one of the points that I think is an improvement is because our school system is more fiscally responsible.
Hi, my name is Kelly Lures. I was a Springboro school teacher for 11 years and treasurer of our Ohio Education Association. I am talking to you today, especially for Westerville schools, to let you know that the district I live in and I taught in is an exceptional district. We are still a blue ribbon school, even without passing 5 consecutive levies. In defense of all teachers everywhere, people go into this profession because of the passion they have for teaching children. And I believe in the children first methodology that is going on in our school board now, because the people we need to think of first is the generation we're teaching. The system as it stands right now for teachers and children and community alike is broken. And if we can revamp the way we look at levies and the way we look at our community and what their needs are, it is obvious to me that with 200 plus applicants for every open position currently at Springboro schools, after the failure of 5 consecutive levies, they're still doing something right. They're learning accountability, and they're learning to provide the services that kids need first. For me, I was very appreciative of my tenure at Springboro. I think it is a wonderful district, continues to strive to be excellent, and now I believe that our community members and our school board are working to make everything coherent, accountable, and best for our children.
We're Jody and Robert Stratton. We moved here from Indiana. We looked specifically for a school district that was not afraid to build and not afraid to that was going in the right direction, because we had come from a school district that was not that way in Indiana. So we moved here in 2006 for my husband's employment. After we moved here, he lost his job. And so we've had to restructure our budget, tighten up, change a few things, and we very much appreciate that the levy was not continually being asked of us, because really there was nothing left to give for the levy. And we feel that the present administration that's in there right now is really going in a good direction. They've really also tightened up their budget and changed things to make it work more, the school to work a lot better and more efficiently. And when he was job hunting, we really didn't want to leave the area because we like our school district and our children love it, and they also don't want to leave. Our children are both in programs for gifted students. They're both doing wonderfully academically, and we couldn't be happier with the school system the way it's presently running.
Just like Jody mentioned, when we were house hunting there in this area, we definitely did it by the school district, and we're happy with Springboro. But just like we've had to do, and a lot of businesses have had to do in the last few years, I'm happy to see that the board is. They're trying to keep our education up in one of the best schools in the area, but also just be conscious of the spending and spend the money in the right way. And I think they're doing that, and I know the board members are working hard at that, and a lot of people are just, not happy with any change at all, and I think we're real happy with it, and we think it's going in the right direction.
I'm Kelly Coles, and I'm here tonight as a taxpayer, president of a school board, parent of 5 children in public schools, and a former educator. I understand that this district passed a levy in March of approximately 11% of your annual operating budget, and there are grave concerns that a repeal of this amount will significantly and negatively impact the quality of education here in Westerville. Let me give you some history about Springboro Schools, whose board I currently preside over. Since 2008, Springboro Schools tried to pass a levy that was also a little over 11% of our operating budget. Our community said no 5 times. During this repeated levy campaigns, our community was told that if the money was not given to our district, we would see property values decline. Children would be put in larger and larger classrooms. The quality of education we offered would plummet downward. We would go off a financial cliff. Springboro would turn into a ghost town, and we would be the laughingstock of the state. All in all, our children would suffer, our community would suffer, and we would be embarrassed. But here are the facts. We did not pass that levy for 11% of our operating funds. We went from a projected deficit of $30 million to now a projected surplus of $10 million. And we gave back all of the things that we took from the children during those levy campaigns. We brought back busing. We brought back textbooks. We brought back field trips, special ed, gifted services. We decreased pay-to-play fees by 50%. We lowered student fees. We brought back materials and supplies. We're still giving modest raises, and we're still giving an 85-15 healthcare cost split. We have become leaner through less administration, less classified staff, but no less teachers. And in fact, we decreased the average class size without more money. We were told that the state would come in and run our system at state minimum standards, and that we did not want that. In running the ODE provided simulation, which is not any longer provided, but in running that simulation, our district at state minimum, I put in all the numbers, and found that we could run our district at state minimum standards with 25% less money than we currently had. Let alone the $6 million per year that we were asking our taxpayers to fund. And in that case, we should be giving our taxpayers a tax refund if we ever said we were going to go to state minimum standards, because it costs far less than what the actual income is. While our community would celebrate a tax holiday, it's likely going to be a cold day on the sun before we saw a refund of our property taxes, so that threat should not be used. But you might ask, what about the quality of your education? As it turns out, we have maintained excellent with distinction. Our average ATC scores have gone up for the last several years. We're now, as of last year, declared a Blue Ribbon School. Blue Ribbon Schools program is a national recognized program honoring elementary and secondary schools in the United States that make significant progress in closing the achievement gap, or whose students achieve at the highest level in their state. Through this program, the U.S. Department of Education recognizes and presents as models these elementary and secondary schools. 2011, only 7 schools in the state got this Blue Ribbon Award, and we were one of them. I'm a former educator, a current taxpayer, current community member, and the parent of 5 children in school system, Springboro school system, and who have graduated from Springboro. I had no doubt that we could make financial decisions that would not hurt the quality of education while not raising the taxes for our struggling community members. In total, we have gone without this emergency money for what appears to will be 9 years, longer than we were ever told we would survive without it. Springboro community discovered that we didn't need more money, we simply needed to spend differently. Our community agreed that the philosophy shift was enough to elect 2 more board members with this philosophy this last fall. In the last 2 years, we have seen that passing a levy was not a viable tool for ensuring quality, but the accountability was. Currently, Westerville has almost $3,000 per pupil to spend more than Springboro. This is 35% more money per pupil than we have to educate with. I understand that this repeal would decrease this to 25% more than we educate our students with, but it doesn't take more money, it takes accountability. Thank you for your time.
Derek Kirby, I live here in Springboro for about 7 years. Kind of what turned me off on the levy was all the doomsday scenarios, and it felt like arm twisting, being bullied a little bit, that if we don't pass the levy, this is going to happen. There wasn't communication coming out that was positive, that if we pass the levy, these are the positive things that are going to happen. It was all, if we don't pass the levy, these are the bad things that are going to happen. And my kids' scores have improved over the past 2 or 3 years. Individual. The way we look at things now from a economic standpoint in our school system, I would have much more confidence in the school board and the community, because the thing you got to remember, the community, the school board members we have now, all except for one, the community voted in. So I would have a lot more confidence in the community as a whole if I were a small business owner looking to open up in Springboro.
Live here. All right, my name is Dave Green. I've been in the Springboro area since 2000 for 12 years, and I have 2 kids in the Springboro schools. My son is a 17-year-old junior, and my daughter is a 15-year-old sophomore. 2 years ago, when we went for this renewal levy, my wife and I actually had a huge debate. She wanted to put the sign in the yard, and I kept jerking it out and putting it in the garage. And we kind of had an internal debate over whether or not it was appropriate to be voting for a levy when everybody's incomes are hitting the skids. And so I just said, no, I'm not doing it anymore. And I kind of, got involved, got to meet Kelly, and started going to some of the meetings and got more involved and realized that the rubber stamping method of just approving every levy that came up was not really doing anybody any good, except for the people that would benefit financially, not the students, not the taxpayer, but there's certain groups that would benefit by those increases in revenue. And the saying is it's for the kids, right? Well, it wasn't really for the kids. It was for, I'll just go ahead and say it. I think the teachers union was pretty strong here, and it's still fairly strong. And I think that they're looking out for their best interests, which they're, that's their job. That's what they're going to do. But I think we have to push back and say enough's enough, and we need to be more responsible with what we're doing with our money.
Hi, my name is Tina Carter. I've lived in Springboro about 14 years now. I've been a realtor for 8 years, and I have 2 kids in the district, one in 6th grade, one in 10th grade. We have seen a lot of changes, but a lot for the better. The real estate market is definitely picking up. Springboro is still a very sought after community. Schools are still excellent with distinction, and a lot of people still want to come here. It's a great place to live.
Hi, I'm Jim Regano, a Springboro Community City School Board member, and I want to talk to you about Children First budget. When David Petroni and I were actively campaigning against our 5th school levy attempt, we were assaulted by members of the school community. Verbally assaulted, and accused of, we don't like kids, we don't like schools, the whole 9 yards. You just don't want to pay more money. Well, what we want is the money to go for kids. And to counter that, we devised what we called a Children First budget. And the Children First budget is built around the premise that when you develop your budget, the first things that funds should be allocated for are the things that are helping kids. I mean, that's your teacher's current salary. It's the books. It's all these things. And in our school district, what they were telling us is that class sizes are unavoidably high, that we had to cut busing, that we can't buy textbooks. Now, those were the reasons that they cited for needing this levy. Well, when we looked at the budget, what was in that levy were the 4+% raises, or 5+% raises that were in the budget, the 90-10 allocation on who pays, school district paying 90% of the health insurance premium. Those things were in the budget, but they were leaving out textbooks, additional teachers to lower class sizes, those things. We asked the question, well, if kids are your first priority, why aren't you budgeting for textbooks and lower class sizes? Why are you putting your raises? I mean, that was the one thing that they wouldn't touch is the raises. So as they developed this budget, we just asked the question, are you really putting kids first? Because it doesn't look like you're doing that when you budget. And that ultimately led the school district, I believe, to reconsider the busing. And we reinstated our high school busing, and we had money budgeted for textbooks. All these things that they said they couldn't do, they ended up being able to do once they got the budget fixed. So our position is if you're really putting kids first, then a children's first budget allocates enough. It allocates the resources you need to keep class sizes where they need to be. It buys the materials and the supplies that you need to run the educational system. It can then look at support things like maintenance of the buildings and the administrative staff that needs to be there. Then you can look at extracurricular activities and sports, because those benefit kids too. And then the last thing, the one thing that really doesn't have a direct benefit to kids is the amount of money that you pay in raises and that you pay for health insurance benefits. And when you look at it from that type of a bottom-up approach, the entire budget changes. And that's what we called a Children First budget.
We ran on a levy alternative campaign, and it was important to not do the same things in education that was always being done. Ask the taxpayer for money, spend more than we bring in as a district, all of a sudden you're in a deficit, and then the first things that are going are things for children's education. Just like in our district, they haven't bought buses in years, so because of not being too concerned about possibly the safety of our children, or more concerned about the adults, we're now going to be forced to buy over 30 buses this year, and yet we're going to be able to do that through resource allocation. So when you think about levy alternatives, you really just try to think, and I'm a businessman, so I approach things a lot differently than an educator. You can't just keep throwing money at education, because it's proven that more money does not necessarily mean better test scores, it doesn't mean better ACT scores, it just doesn't mean that. It's really, you have to look at the whole picture of where and how things are being run and operated. So Children's First budget is just that. I mean, every decision I make as a board member, the first place I look to is how is it going to impact our kids. We're an excellent, with distinction, school district, but we're looking at our third grade test scores, and because our third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade test scores are bad, we made a decision to spend $380,000 in books to help the teachers teach the kids, which is what they do best.
And you look at when you're going to go buy a house, you look at the taxes and so forth, and it's like, oh, I can't afford to live there. Taxes are too expensive, and I think we're at the top level right here where we're taxed at right now, and it just needs to be spent right. I don't mind paying what I'm paying for taxes, but I want it spent right. That's all I'm asking for my leaders to do.
We've always looked at our community, even probably more so than we should. It's an upscale community. We have the middle class people, more or less, in upscale homes here in the area. But as a city manager once said to me, a city manager a few years ago, we don't have any subsidized renters in our town. And I stood for the meeting. I said, I beg your pardon. I said, there's quite a few people that struggle in our town. It's just that it's something they don't go and broadcast out. At that point, I had 4 or 5 properties on subsidized rent that we don't go out and talk about, but a lot of folks struggle. They really do, and in today's market, there's a lot of them out there. We've had to reduce some of our rent on some of our properties to try to just help the people that struggle, try to help them get in homes that are less expensive. But we're all faced with that, and I certainly don't have the answers, politically speaking. I know who I'm going to support, but I think, you know, we need to take a look at what's happened in the last 4 years and take a serious look at what's going to happen in the future. And we need to make some changes. And changes are hard to make when people think it's going to affect their billfold.